Consider for a moment what it would have been like to have witnessed all of recorded history, to see firsthand the earliest cities rise and fall, to have seen those first houses of worship go up, brick by brick, to see Homo sapiens, B'nai Adam, dispersed from the Fertile Crescent to every corner of the earth. And then again, in one blink of time's patient eye, to see them weave themselves back together with telephone lines and undersea cables. To see the rise of one megacity after another, and the disappearance of forests older than all the world's religions. One organism, the largest and likely the oldest in the world, has borne silent witness for thousands of years. That organism is not a blue whale, not a towering redwood, but a fungus. A network of fungus, in fact, known as a mycelium, that stretches across the length of a forest, linking each tree to one another, root by root, living symbiotically with the trees. The mycelia absorb phosphorus and nitrogen from rocks and soil and deliver those essential building blocks of life to the tree. The tree, which turns sunlight into sugar through photosynthesis, makes a little bit extra for its fungal friend. Without each other, neither could thrive. But there is more to this relationship. Trees actually use mycelia to communicate with one another by sending chemical signals through their roots to the mycelium, which in turn pass the message along to all the other connected plants in the network. Trees can warn each other about blight and other threats, and they can even share nutrients this way. Some scientists call this Earth's natural internet, or the Wood Wide Web. The oldest living creature, that longest standing link to the first works of creation, bears witness every day to the mysterious interconnection of life. Albert Einstein once said, "A human being is part of the whole called by us universe, but he experiences himself as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness." Einstein says that this delusion is a kind of prison for us. In actuality, we are all one, undivided. So how do we free ourselves from this prison of separateness? Einstein says, quote, "by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty." According to Einstein, the key to recognizing the oneness of the universe is found in nature, in our interconnection with and embrace of other living creatures. But of course, this idea did not originate with Einstein. In fact, the Torah itself insists that we encounter God, that is, oneness, in nature. Rabbi Jamie Korngold, in her book God in the Wilderness, points out that in the Bible, most frequently God appears near water, by trees, or on mountaintops. So many theophanies, so many encounters with the divine occur in nature. Where does Jacob encounter God? Not in a building, but in the middle of the wilderness, his head resting on a stone. And then again on the banks of the Jabbok River, the rush of water turning to mist all around him. Likewise, Moses does not encounter God until he leaves the confines of Yitro's camp and reaches the edge of the Midbar, the wilderness. Only there, surrounded by desert brush and Jethro's bleating flock, is Moses able to hear the call of God. And Elijah too found God in the wilderness, first in a cave and then on a mountaintop. The lightning and the wind, not to mention the view, helping him to find the inner silence through which he found God. And huddled at the foot of that same mountain, all the Israelites encountered God through nature. God appeared at Sinai as an Anan Kaved al-Hahar, a thick cloud upon the mountain, surrounded by terrifying kolot uvrakim, thunder and lightning. In that remote place, far from civilization, they felt the awe of God through a multi-sensory display of nature's might. And in order to conjure up that formative experience wherever the people roamed, God commands the Israelites in our parashah to build a mishkan, a portable dwelling place for God. But the thing is, how could human hands build a home to contain God, creator of those mighty rivers and towering mountains? Well, the materials and the design of the Mishkan can show us how to foster an awareness of divine interconnectedness and an awareness of the awesome oneness of nature, even in our humanly built world. The Torah says that the kerashim, the boards of the Mishkan, and the aron, the sanctuary, are to be constructed with eitzei shitim, with wood from acacia trees. Why were trees so central in the building of the Mishkan? Rabbi David Seidenberg, author of the book Kabbalah and Ecology, presents the following image. He says, "To the human eye, no creature embraces heaven and earth more than the tree. A tree is poised in between worlds, its roots dividing out smaller and deeper into the earth below until they seem to dissolve into it, its branches soaring above us, full of leaves like hands holding the sky. In other words, the tree is the perfect medium for connecting heaven and earth." And why the eight shita, the acacia in particular? The Torah's writers may not have known about mycelia, but given their closeness to the land, they must have known about the shita's most significant feature, its exceptionally long roots. Though acacias only grow to about 10 or 20 feet tall, they send out roots as far as 115 feet in every direction, connecting them to water sources far from their trunks. In turn, the acacia serves as its own micro-ecosystem, providing water and food for camels and nesting space for birds and insects. In the barren midbar, the acacia is like the arboreal form of mycelia, a point of connection for all forms of life. And for an untethered, wandering people, a mishkan from acacia perfectly symbolizes their rootedness to God wherever they roam. But the thing is, the mishkan is so much more than just acacia wood. It is also the stone, lapis lazuli, and dolphin skins. It is human creativity and passion, labor and love. The Mishkan is designed to be the place where all of these elements of nature, from the sky to the sea to the earth, come together. In the words of Midrash Tanhuma, HaMishkan Shakul Keneged Kol HaOlam, the Mishkan corresponds to and represents the whole world, all of creation. So the Mishkan then is about more than just the connection between a people and their God. It is about the connection between all things. It is, observes Josephus, an imitation and representation of the universe. The Mishkan's design insists that only by putting together all of its diverse elements, by symbolically recognizing and asserting our connection to all other things, only then can we make a dwelling place for God. If this human creation, the Mishkan, teaches how we can make space for God, what can God's own creation teach us? Rabbi Bachya ibn Pekuda says that creation, romez alav, more alav, kasher Torah hamolcha al oseh, v'habnuya al boneh. Creation hints and teaches about the Creator, just as a work reflects its workman and a building reflects its builder. In other words, just as we can see a building and learn something about its architect, so too when we look at nature, can we learn about God. And what will nature teach us once we see it? Bachya says, V'ra'ui sheteda ki kol ha'olam mechubar. It is worthwhile, it is essential for you to know that kol ha'olam mechubar, the whole world is connected. This, though, is a truth which cannot be fully learned by reading a Jewish text or by sitting in a synagogue. Some things must be experienced directly. Many of you know that I had the honor of serving as student rabbi in Juneau, Alaska. In Juneau, it is not crows or pigeons that sit atop the streetlights, but august bald eagles. In Juneau's boreal rainforest, I witnessed Sitka spruces as tall as an office building, lending branch to majestic great blue herons, who survey the shimmering waters below for a late afternoon fish, yet one not already devoured by a bear. It was moments like these that helped me realize how vast the world is and how small I am. And yet how, as Einstein teaches, we are all part of the same inseparable whole. Kol ha'olam mechubar. On my last night in Juneau, I sat alongside the channel that runs through the city, and I lifted my eyes toward the mountains that spanned the horizon. As Shabbat drew to a close, the oranges, yellows, and purples transformed both the sea and the sky before me into a watercolor canvas. Sitting there, I recited this ancient blessing, the blessing for wonders of nature. Baruch atah Adonai, oseh ma'aseh v'reshit. Our sages teach that every Jewish soul, from those who escaped Sinai to those of us in this room today, that we encountered God on that very same mountain as Moses and Elijah. But today, almost all formal Jewish practice happens at a remove from nature. Our religious schools, our Torah study sessions, and our tefillot, our prayer, all convene indoors. We insist that our connection to God and to each other must happen in wood-paneled sanctuaries such as this, when the original sanctuary, the Mishkan, aspired to represent so much more. Perhaps this is one of the reasons why today, as Rabbi Jamie Korngold argues, only 30% of American Jews belong to synagogues, and why so few ever attend services. By moving Judaism indoors, what are we missing out on? In the words of the Rambam's son, Rabbi Abraham Maimonides, in order to serve God, one needs access to the enjoyment of the beauties of nature, such as the contemplation of flower-decorated meadows, majestic mountains, and flowing rivers. For all of these are essential to the spiritual development of even the holiest of people. But to be clear, we don't need to venture to the majestic vistas of Alaska to have this kind of experience. We can find it in almost any work of nature, as Rabbi Nachman of Breslov modeled for his students. He was known to pray, Ribono shel olam, zakeni lehiyot ragil letzeit b'chol yom l'sadeh, bein ilonot v'asavim v'chol siach hasadeh. May it be my custom to go outdoors each day among the trees, among the grass, among all growing things, and enter into prayer, to talk with my Creator. And may all the foliage of the field, all grasses, trees, and plants, all made by the transcendent source, awake at my coming. Where is the dwelling place for that transcendent source now? The Talmud teaches that the Mishkan, that ancient home of our transcendent source, of oneness, is nignaz, is hidden away from the world, just like other long-lost treasures, including the light from the first day of creation. However, the word nignaz shares a root with a word many of us are familiar with, geniza, a room where damaged holy texts are stored pending burial. So perhaps the Mishkan, not so much building as idea or experience, is not hidden away from humanity forever, but instead is safely stored in nature, waiting to be rediscovered and reclaimed. Just as the treasures from the Cairo Geniza reinvigorated secrets long lost to our tradition, so too can the unifying principle of the Mishkan. The prophet Joel, in his vision of a world redeemed, does not foretell the rebuilding of a new Bait, a new temple, to proclaim God's oneness. Instead, the redemption occurs within the divine house of nature. Joel says, V'haya v'yom hahu yitfu haharim asim, v'hagvaot telachna chalav, u'ma'ayan mibeit Adonai yetzeh, v'hishka et nachal hashitim. And in that day the mountains shall drip with wine, the hills shall flow with milk, a spring shall issue from the house of Adonai, and shall water the valley of the acacias. Those mountains, hills, and streams, they have long borne witness to creation. And the acacia, its long roots interwoven with mycelia, reaches back through history to remember and to teach that eternal truth of time and space. Kol ha'olam mechubar. The whole world is interconnected, and therein is God.